My name is Adrian Meyer. I am the custodian of the quantum switch. It's a process of transformation that has been in development for the last 23 years that will help people to cut their process of transformation from many, many years of suffering and unnecessary struggle to sometimes months. And if you really do it well, it can do it in days. Everybody's going through a period of severe transformation at the moment, and change and uncertainty. And we don't have any of those things that we need to make our lives work properly. Certainty, security, and safety. We don't have that at the moment. And it's gone for many people around the world, where a lot of what they had before, they will never have again. So we have to find a different way of doing life. We have to find a way of becoming those people who can do this life that's different from the way it used to be. We have to become those people. We can't just pretend that everything will be fine. We'll have to make it fine. We can't just wait for someone to create the future for us. We'll have to create the future ourselves. We have to do it ourselves. Nobody's going to help us. Okay? So we are the people we've been waiting for. So for us to take our lives forward in a proper and secure way, we have to become the creators of our life experience in going into the future. That's basically what it is for us. The quantum switch is really, and the process of transformation, which I'm going to explain to you now, is basically 7 steps or 7 phases that everybody goes through in a process of change and transformation into a different life. You know that life is always a process of up and down, and sometimes it goes well, and it doesn't go well, and so we've been riding a wave of ups and downs all the time. And the process I'm going to explain to you takes one of those cycles and breaks it down into a process of transformation. The quantum switch is something that happens within that period of transformation. It happens in different spaces and different places for different people. So you can't say, this is where it's supposed to happen, or that's where it's supposed to happen. The quantum switch is something which really, when this thing hits you, or when it happens to you, your life changes immediately and forever, because you have suddenly a new understanding, a new way of looking at life, a new way of understanding where you are. This kind of insight is so powerful, because if you don't have the insight, you're walking around in the dark, trying to find the door. And sometimes you don't find the door, or you find the wrong door. And you head out in a direction that takes you nowhere. It only takes you into a zone of suffering and a trap of misery. The other way to do is to understand a thing called the golden hour, and take your life forward faster. So we're all going through this, and everybody's to some degree involved in this process at this time. Everybody in the world. So this is a learning process. So let's have a look at the process. I'm just going to do the 7 phases, and then I'll do smaller short lessons, because everything I try to keep it like 12 or 13 minutes, so it doesn't get too much for the ears and the eyes and so on. Okay, so let's take, I'm just going to draw it out here. All right, so this is the process. It looks like nothing, but wait, the pictures are coming. So when we are born, we get into a life, and you have a certain structure, education, family, values, beliefs, all those things are all sitting there, and it gives you a stability. Okay, it gives you a stability. So it gives you the safety, security, and certainty when you're there. As long as you do as they say, and you fit in and you fall in with whatever the society requires, you're fine. Nothing will happen to you. Okay. The level of consciousness of that society is not really what we're worried about now. It's that it is stable, kind of stable. Okay. So now what happens is, let's use an example of we have a very nice job, and something that defines you. Your job defines you. You're quite happy with your status. you have status, you've got the job, the kids, the wife, the car, the house, the whole thing, everything. There's all into this whole process of picture that you discovered and you built for yourself. Okay, or society is built for you, really. They say to you, if you like this, you'll be accepted. If you do that, you earn this, drive this, live there, have these, and so on. And then you are accepted, you are arrived. Now, what happens if you lose that job? Or the company closes down? Like so that happened to millions of companies all over the world now during this corona period. All right, so it happens, right? Now you have suddenly you have a period of shaking where that whole thing starts shaking and your stability is gone. Okay, so then you have a few options here, depending on what you're doing with your resources. Your resources, what are you doing with your time, your attention, your information, and your energy? Those are the 4 resources that we talk about in this whole process. If you know what to do with it, and you understand this process is really going to be something that you need to apply those assets and resources properly in a way that you can avoid coming down all the way here, but that you can go like this. Okay. If you can go like that, it'll be perfect. So you don't fall so far. So yeah, you need to be aware of your resources and your assets. Your assets are things that you can use to make money with. Okay. There are many different ways. You can have tools or specialized knowledge, or you can have hobbies or equipment, skills, fast learning ability, all those kind of things you can use as assets, things to make money with, right? So you can use that. If you just use it properly and you catch it fast enough, then you can shorten the dip a lot, okay? You can make it shallow. Okay, like flatten the curve, right? Cool. So that most people do not do that. Okay, they get so they don't use that golden hour. What they do is they wait and see. Okay, they wait and watch the Netflix, or they wait and see. Oh, it's going to be fine. Everything will be fine. Everything will work. It's okay. Just hang in there. I think we'll go back to normal. Don't worry. Or if there's a new normal, it will be more or less the same. No worry, just keep on going. So that's the process that we go through. And then what happens? Invariably, you start falling. Okay. The falling is a process of life diminishing energy and the lower levels of consciousness in which you go to. It's driven by fear and it's driven by shame. And the possibility of loss, the grief that you have of losing that fantastic job, and you are withdrawing from that society because they're not going to answer your phones, your calls, and you send them an email, it will suddenly come back as spam, and so on. So if you start falling like that, your society that you used to be your buddies and so on, they withdraw from you. And you end up in the bottom here, in an area. This is the misery trap, okay? The misery trap. Okay. What is that? That is where you get to the lowest level of consciousness. It's also known as the landing. The landing. So you have the shaking, the falling, and the landing. The landing is when you get down here and you realize, it's not going to get any better, and you start to really suffer badly from the misery and humiliation and the grief and the guilt and apathy and all those things. You start struggling with that, and your life changes. 2 things happen. You start getting people into your life who will confirm for you what you believe here, number 1. And number 2, you'll draw people in your life that will use you when you're done here, okay? Because you are desperate and you need a job and you need something to you need to do something. And usually people try and sell something. Immediately, I'll just go and sell something to someone else. And you hate it, you can't do it, it's not natural for you to do. And you try, and because you fail in that, the humiliation gets even worse. Nah? So now you have a situation, you have three choices to make. The first one, you're going to just make your life smaller and diminish your life experience, smaller and smaller. You're going to go from your big house to a smaller house, to a room in the house. You sell your assets, you sell your stuff, you just make your life smaller all the time, and you complain like hell, and it's not going to help you. Okay, that happens. The other option is take yourself out, and that happens. Okay, it's not recommended, but there's a way out. There's a way to fix the situation, or there's a way of going up. Here is a period and a time and a process. I'll write this in purple because it's quite important. This is the wake up, get up, stay up, and prosper. Wake up, get up, stay up, and prosper. So those are the four phases of ascension into this new level of life. So what does it mean? When you're down there, you need something called courage. You need encouragement. It usually comes from someone else who knows this process and understands how this works. So what they do is they can encourage you. They bring you courage. And courage is the first step in higher consciousness that you can live in. Okay, so courage gives you access to higher consciousness. You have two levels of consciousness. You have life diminishing, which is this part, and life enhancing, which is this part. Okay, this is like a journey in consciousness if you really look at it, and it's very powerful if you can do it right. Of course, you can't do it alone. It's kind of very difficult to start doing this kind of thing alone. It takes you years to get this good, to get this done. Okay, so the wake up part is when you realize there is another possibility. Right? There is something else. There's a different way of doing this. There's a better way of creating life, and it is possible to create a better life for yourself. The second one is the get up phase. That's where you get up, you equip with yourself, you start using your assets, and you start refocusing your resources, and you reinvent. You start reinvent, reassess, look at your life, look at it in a proper and powerful way, and say, okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can learn this, I can make that. And it's an area of discovering possibilities and strengths, and building up a type of momentum, an inner momentum, I call it, that you can actually ascend. You can start transcending your situation and get yourself into a better position in life again. Then this area in your life is a call for resilience. Resilience is because when you on your way up, there's always a residual of these. It's called karmic residual. That's all the stuff that you've done before. Sometimes you made a mistake, and you have a lot of debt you have to pay off, and so on. So the stay up, the resilience is to keep going during this difficult time where you have to get rid and solve and pay off and get rid of things and people and so on that will stop you from going up. And it's the resilience part is sometimes the most difficult part, because a lot of people they get to there and they fall back because it's just too much work, too hard, too uncertain, and the biggest problem is they don't have a divinely inspired vision. They don't have one. So if you don't have one, then this whole process kind of becomes kind of not pointless, but it becomes very difficult because you don't know where you're going. You're just, stepping around in the mud. You don't have a clue. So the idea is then to keep on going in the resilient phase. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done there to make sure that you get to the prosper phase. The prosper phase is where your life takes on this new vision, and you can live in peace, and you experience more joy and acceptance, and you become more and more willing to pursue that dream. Okay, the willingness actually comes in much earlier as well, but not as strong as when you prosper. When you prosper, you will actually the willingness increases exponentially, right, to do the higher consciousness thing. And then, of course, the vision thing. Imagine yourself when you get there, when the shaking happens to you, and you start falling now, and you don't have a vision, you have nothing. Okay, what you had. You had a vision for this job that you had, okay, or you know, the idea that you had an idea in your head what your life must be like, but now that idea is kind of imploding because it's not going to work. You know, you have to do something else. Now you have a time of truly reinventing yourself and becoming a pivoteer, if I call it that, pivoting your life in an upward direction before you fall too far. Okay, so although it very rarely happens that during that golden hour people take enough action, they usually let it slip for a while, and then they, you know, it takes some time, and then they really struggle to erase that arresting that fall is very difficult because, you know, you're trying to hang on to the side there, but the problem is the side is slippery and it's very steep, and going down is kind of natural. So this is the process of transformation, and I will go through every step much more in detail in the coming up. Suffice to say, here is these steps really, everybody is somewhere in this day and age. Everybody is somewhere there. And if a person is there, and a person is there, and a person is there, you will not treat them the same. Okay? They do not have the same needs, they do not have the same consciousness, they do not have the same requirements in order to go forward. So you need to be clever enough to pick people up there if you are a practitioner of this kind of thing. And what we do usually is we assess and find out where you are in this process, and say, okay, you know, you are here or there or there, and in order for you to have a better life again and to take back your life and live it in a higher level of consciousness, we need to address those situations, right? And get you there and pick you up and encourage you to walk forward, and then give you the equipment and the time, and get you to, the main thing is to look at your resources. What are you doing with your time, your attention, your information, and your energy? Think about it. What are you doing with those things? Now, in the time where everything is uncertain, are you watching news? Or are you reading some junk stuff? You know, reading is good, but it depends on what you're reading, of course. And how are you spending your what are you paying attention to in your life? Because where your attention is, there your energy will go. And where your energy will go, you will attract more of that energy. It's like opening a big tap and the energy flows in. There's many lectures and lessons on these things that I will bring to your attention and show you how it works, how you can use all these things, these components in this journey back to your inspired vision. It is a fantastic process. It can be hard sometimes. The only thing that really makes it hard is the level of resistance. The more you resist change and the more you want to stay the way it was before, you can imagine, you know, down here, you don't want to stay there. But many people will say, you know, better the devil I know than the devil I don't know. And I'll rather make my life smaller and stay there because I can't see myself. I don't have the strength. When in fact, they don't have the consciousness to go up to a higher level. Okay? The idea is to develop that consciousness, to develop that velocity, to get yourself to that escape velocity where you can go in your new direction and make life work for yourself and for others. So I'd like to welcome you to this trip. If you go and watch the next movies or videos, then you'll get a lot of instruction there. And if I can help you, you can just reach out to me and let's see if I can help you. Okay, I'm sure I can, but many blessings.